Welcome to Wellness is a Way of Life, the podcast for female leaders seeking sustainable energy, clarity, and confidence. I'm Megan Swan, your guide on a journey to mastering wellness as an integrated part of your life. Let's explore personalized wellness strategies that truly resonate with who you are. Welcome, Lisa, to Wellness is a Way of Life. It's such an honor and a privilege to have you here today. Lisa is such a badass. She is a four-time national champion and U.S. Hall of Fame gymnast turned serial entrepreneur, certified executive coach, best-selling author, and founder and general partner of the Bad Bitch Empire, an early-stage venture fund investing in high-impact female-led businesses. She is the author of one of my favorite books, The Bad Bitch Business Bible, 10 Commandments to Break Free of Good Girl Brainwashing and Take Charge of Your Body, Boundaries, and Bank Account. She is a business and life coach. She's a mentor of mine. She helps high-achieving women break through their limiting beliefs and tap into their full potential to build empires aligned with their deepest desires. Lisa's mission is to empower women to be unapologetic, worthy, wealthy through personal and professional growth while investing together in the next generation of billion-dollar female-led companies. The list goes on and on all the ways she's so amazing. So let's just jump in. Welcome, Lisa. How are you this morning?
I'm great. Thanks, Megan, for having me on.
So how does an incredible bad bitch like yourself get ready for a busy work week?
Well, this morning, I always start with my Bad Bitch Energy playlist. I think it's so important to get fully embodied in the leader, the woman, the bad bitch that you want to show up as. And there's nothing that gets me moving quite like moving my body, getting into flow. So also getting myself out of my head, because a lot of times your head is where the limiting belief starts. It's where all the fears start, right? Where you start to try and rationalize everything versus really feeling into your body. So I've found that in particular, movement is really important for me to get started, to shake off any old energy from the weekend or the previous week and really start fresh as the woman that I want to be and show up as during the week.
Yes, love all that. Love a good playlist. Maybe you'll share it with me one time. I would love to talk about boundaries and how it came to your, at what point in your own self-awareness did you understand what boundaries even were and how to establish them and communicate them in your personal and professional life?
Yeah, it's an ongoing journey to figure out what your boundaries are, because I think that there's, let's say, the overarching thing that I talk about is good girl brainwashing, and good girl brainwashing being all those societal media messages that train us to be polite, perfectionist, people pleasers, putting everyone else on the priority list except for ourselves. And that also means sacrificing our own health, our own, mental health as well, and just our own needs. And boundaries are the things that protect yourself, your sanity, your needs, your space. And as good girls, we're often not taught that. As women in this world, we're taught to sacrifice. And so for me, the process of figuring out what my boundaries are really came about as a result of having my having my space encroached on, having my being disrespected, having the experience of all the things that I didn't want to happen. We know all those times in the workplace when we get into situations where we thought we were being nice, and then we end up getting in uncomfortable situations, particularly in male-dominated industries where our boundaries do get crossed and we didn't even realize there was a boundary, right? Sometimes. So I think that part of the exploration of boundaries was realizing things that I didn't want to happen to me anymore. And also discovering that my voice was a really powerful boundary setter. As someone who was really shy, as someone who didn't really have a voice growing up and felt uncomfortable speaking up, realizing that simply communicating very directly what your boundaries are and setting that expectation up front is so, so important. And a lot of times it's hard for us to set those boundaries up front because we don't want to come across as too demanding, too much of a diva, to whatever the adjective is you want to put in there. But it was also getting over the fear of being a quote unquote bitch, fear of being a quote unquote diva, right? And actually realizing that I have worked so hard to get to where I am, and I deserve to have the boundaries to protect the woman that I've worked to become.
Yes. So, do you have like a toolbox that you use at this point in your expertise to deal with people that cross your boundaries?
There's, I think, different levels of boundary crossing. Obviously, personal relationships are different than professional relationships, right? There have been times I've had to make the hard decision of cutting off people in my personal life, and also in my professional life that just were not willing to respect my boundaries, even though I had communicated them multiple times. Disrespect is just a very clear boundary for me. So that can come in many different forms, and especially if that's been vocalized and someone will continue to press up against that and push it. You have to really think about, is that the kind of person you want in your orbit, personally or professionally? So it really, because boundaries can come in so many different ways and everyone has a very different personal idea of like how much they're willing to accept or not accept, it's really more of coming from the place of, I always say the exercise is envisioning the most powerful, highest version of yourself, the bad bitch version of yourself, and asking yourself, would she tolerate this? Would that version of me who really knew my worth and was really grounded in who I am, would she accept this? How would she respond to it? And a lot of times when we do have our boundaries crossed, we're in a state of, fight, flight, or freeze. And we aren't actually responding from a place of groundedness. We're reacting. We might get angry, we might get frustrated, we might get stressed out or anxious, but it is that like bad bitch empress version of you, of like, that woman doesn't get stressed out about it. She communicates what she expects and what she wants. And if someone is not going to respect that, then, do they still deserve your time going forward?
Yeah. Yeah. So I absolutely love, well, both of the photo shoots, the one where you're just like in this badass black, the ponytail. And then you've recently done like a much softer, but you still have this, you just oozing confidence, and it's a soft confidence. So I'd love to hear your experience in finding confidence over the years. Did you always feel that way? Where did you find, or what did you find really helped you build that over time?
So thank you for noticing the shift. And yes, this latest photo shoot that I did was, I really went in with that, like, what does the Empress era for me really look like? And I had been having this experience of evolution in the background. And I just, every time I tried to create with the previous photo shoot, I was like, the landing pages aren't looking right. It's just not feeling right, because that was a previous version of me that brought me to where I am today. But I need that like visual representation of this new era. And so my confidence has also been an evolution, as has my identity. And I think part of the evolution and growth is what brings the confidence. I think we all have had that feeling where we're realizing we're evolving out of our old self. We're shedding the skin, the old skin that we don't really want anymore, or ready to get rid of. But the thing is that in our current environment, there's always reminders of our past. People. It's whatever it is. The external world doesn't necessarily catch up with you right away. So it's really important, as you're developing this confidence. For me, it's like doing my own creation of reality through photo shoots, even, for example. And so when I first launched the Bad Bitch Empire, it really came from, I had entered this new era of confidence where I had really discovered my like powerful feminine, like sexual, like dark, the kind of like the dark feminine, the rage transmuting into passion, into a mission. And I went out there, in my like sexy lingerie and leather and knee-high boots. And I was like, this feels so liberating, especially in a very male-dominated industry that will always criticize what a woman wears, especially if it's not quote unquote business professional or business appropriate. And I really sought to that was a challenge on my confidence, in so much as I was like, if I really was confident in myself and I really didn't care what people said about me, like, here's how I'm going to come out into the world. Because I know it's going to provoke some sort of reaction, especially from, men who don't understand. And so I ended up, going out there, launching the Bad Bitch Empire, and it met with a lot of love and also a lot of criticism, both sides of the coin. And in particular, I found that it was very triggering to, let's say, people who had a vested interest in keeping the old system, the current patriarchal system alive. And that's both men and women. There's certain types of women with, from old wealth that really benefited from it. And that really took a shot at my confidence again. I thought I was strong. I thought I was great, and I was, but it's definitely a next level when you put yourself out there knowing that you're going to be criticized by being the biggest version of yourself. So it was through that process, it was almost like a spiritual vehicle that, in launching and birthing the Bad Bitch Empire, that I really tested, how confident, how grounded is my confidence really. And it was shook because of having to deal with people who would purposely try to misjudge me based off the cover of the book, right? Literally judging by the book. And as I was reflecting and as I was evolving and as I was gaining my strength and confidence back, I started realizing that I was really tired of fighting. And I think many women feel this, which is the fatigue of fighting a patriarchal system that was never built for them. And how, even though I had discovered this feminine power, there was still like a fighting power. Like, we're gonna shatter the patriarchy. We're gonna do all this. And I think part of it was realizing there was also some wounded masculine energy inside of me. And so then it was also like, how do I find the balance of these two? I'm not meant to fight and wear myself out. I said, when I thought of being a queen, when I thought of being an empress, it's like, well, the queen rules not by being on the battlefield and sacrificing herself, and potentially having herself shot dead. She rules from a place of wisdom and of really knowing her innate wisdom, what she brings to ruling the kingdom and ruling the empire. And so my confidence, I feel now, in terms of, as you mentioned, like the softer side, it's part of releasing the proving energy that was still, I think, inherent in launching the Bad Bitch Empire. It was like proving that a woman could be in venture capital, proving that my brand could stand, firmly, even though it was so blatantly like irreverent of the typical norms of the industry. And so now I'm at the point where it's like, my track record speaks for itself. And I see that anybody who does criticize, for example, the brand, it's really a reflection of their own insecurities. So I think all that inner work of knowing who I am has led to building up that confidence.
I love that. I'd love to talk more about, as women, giving ourselves permission to evolve and, shift identities. I think that's so key, particularly when we're, even from my work, you want to have better habits. It often means you need to embody a different identity. Like, we become very connected to these good and bad habits. But first, I'd love to go a little bit more into, like, we both know how, you mentioned it yourself, the patriarchy. And I just did another interview where we were talking about how men are also trapped in these systems that are not serving, both genders, all humans, the planet. And I'd love to know from your perspective, I know that you are totally open to male allies in the Bad Bitch Fund, for example. And, what's sort of your experience in, maybe, like, I don't know, are you pleasantly surprised more often than not, the amount of men that are open? Because I know you've also just been in so many rooms where you've felt that that you gained clarity that, quite simply, you just need to start your own fund, build your own table.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many good men. There's so many men who want to support women. I think the next step for a lot of those men is also putting money where their mouth is. I think it certainly does get. I think we see a lot of men who are vocally very supportive and they want to help in all these ways. And I think one challenge is they're always like, oh, well, here's a woman you should talk to who can invest. And it's like, yes, but what about yourself, sir? Um, and so I think that was really the thing, and realizing that there are different ways that men can support, of course, and there are a number of male allies in the fund, and more who want to join in. But I always think that's the important thing to talk to men about, which is there's ways to amplify, there's ways to advocate, there's ways to connect, and there's also ways to invest. And I thought of Bad Bitch Empire as this is really an opportunity for them to showcase that they really do believe in the ROI of investing in women. And the men who walk the walk they'll walk the walk.
Totally. Can you talk to us a little bit about, why financially it makes so much sense, why the opportunity is so massive, where this is all going, and really your optimism in funding women?
Yeah. First and foremost, we are 50% of the population. We control 85% of consumer spending. Women are becoming more educated and ambitious than ever. We are earning 60% of undergraduate and graduate degrees. We are becoming the primary breadwinners in 50%, almost 50% of US households. And most households, women do actually have a significant say and control over the financial decisions of the home. And with all of that said, we are the consumers. We are the ones who are amplifying products and investing and buying products. But the fact that only 2% of female founders get funding means that there really is a massive disconnect between what's happening in the market and in the economy and the actual investment dollars going into women. And the fundamental understanding of how the economy works is that any asset that is undervalued means that there has to, at some point, become a massive adjustment to account for the imbalance. And so we always see that correction in the markets. We saw that with crypto. When crypto was way overvalued, eventually there's a correction. Right? We see that with real estate. There's always a correction. Even the valuations when Silicon Valley, the bubble burst, just 2 years ago, we were seeing $100 million valuations when people just had a deck and they didn't even have any product or revenue. And even now, as a venture capitalist, when I'm looking at valuations, they are a fraction of what they were, just a few years ago, because there's a correction, because it was imbalanced. And so the biggest imbalance is the fact that women are such a massive opportunity. We are really rising up in education and ambition in the ranks and leadership. And as more women are demanding female-led innovation, it's just, we're no longer going to accept companies created by men for women who don't actually understand our bodies, our needs, our financial needs as well. So I think all of this comes to a point of, as an investor, the fundamental thing you always look for is where is the undervalued opportunity, because the undervalued opportunity will always yield the greatest upside.
Yes. So helping female founders and getting these potentially billion-dollar companies off the ground is one key thread for you, but then also just empowering women to be unapologetic about seeking, abundance in their own bank account, and therefore greater agency in how they want to contribute back to the world. What's sort of been your experience in your trajectory feeling abundant?
Yeah, well, my background, I think, like many women, wasn't one of wealth. My parents were immigrants and from China, came with a couple $100 in their bank account. And what I did have an abundance of was, love and support in the house for my dreams, especially my athletic dreams. But money wasn't necessarily the thing that was abundant. And I always compare, your relationship to money with just like a personal romantic relationship. You're either anxious, you're avoidant, or you're a combination of those, or you're secure. And I say an avoidant relationship with money is one in which you, just like if you were avoidant with the partner, you don't really want to communicate. You don't really want to dwell on anything that's, not super comfortable. And so you think the more I avoid it, the more like, just pretend it's not there. And of course, eventually there's a big blow up fight, right? And they're like, you can't ignore the elephant in the room. And so an avoidant relationship with money is you're like, I don't really want to check my bank account statements. I don't really want to deal with the taxes. Like maybe if I just pretend it's not there, I just won't get taxed, or that maybe if I pretend the debt is not there, it'll go away. An anxious relationship is where you're always afraid you're going to lose money. You're always afraid you're going to spend it or something. So you're always saving, you're always hoarding. And you're like kind of suffocating. I say suffocating your money in your bank account, just like you might suffocate your partner if you're afraid that they're going to leave, afraid that they're going to abandon you. And, lo and behold, one of the biggest reasons why someone will actually end up leaving you is like if you suffocate them, you're so afraid that they're going to leave you that you actually end up being the very reason that they leave. And it's the same woman who says, I'm afraid to invest in myself. I'm afraid to invest in any assets because she equates investing with losing money, whether that's investing in her own, growth, her own education, her own coaching, or that's investing in, stock market, real estate, any income producing asset. And so for me, I've always had a avoidant relationship with money in the past. I would say like, if I just focus on working hard, then I don't need to deal with the bank account. Like just keep working. And I kind of was in this like workaholic mode, just assuming that like the harder I worked, the more money would come. And I think part of me entering into a place of abundance was also releasing my grip on workaholism, the hustle mentality, the always on, and realizing that I deserve to have space and I deserve to treat my body well. And I think the more I actually focused on my deservingness, the more the abundance started showing up in other areas. So it wasn't like I directly worked on the money. It was I worked on myself and my own feeling of deserving abundance, deserving space, deserving respect, deserving, to be paid the amount that I was worth. And so that's also where boundaries started coming in, when I thought about speaking engagements, when I thought about different types of like just pricing and how it felt good for me where I could fully commit and invest versus, let's say, discounting myself to sacrifice, to give a cheaper price when I was like, that's just a lose-lose for both people. And so I think all of that is, I'm a big fan of obviously talking about energy, and how you treat yourself is going to be a reflection of the outer world, including your bank account.
So with all that said, what are some sort of nitty-gritty things that have shifted your sense of deservingness? And what kind of time frame are we talking about that this evolved for you?
Nitty-gritty, you mean like habits or?
Yeah, like was it just the act of investing in yourself, or were there other things that you were doing that really helped you feel more worthy?
I would say, so I also really think it's important to talk holistically. As women, we've also, well, I think just people in business, you're often taught to like keep your private life private, your business life is, your professional life is professional. But I think especially as women, we aren't supposed to be compartmentalizers. It's like if you feel like shit in one part of your life, you can't just be like, now I'm on and now I'm great in business. It's kind of like you got to feel good everywhere. And so I made some adjustments also in my personal life where I like romantically was in the past attracting, I would say, men who did not fit the bill of supportive and secure and just supporting my work. Like they were like covert misogynists, I found out. And I was like, how could this be? But like with the work that I do, how am I attracting covert misogynists into my life? And I would discover that was the kind of man he was. And then I would think like, oh no, but maybe I can change them. Maybe I can help them see, and I think that's part of the coach in me. That's part of the like altruistic, empathetic, feminine in me that's like, no, maybe I can help them. Maybe I can heal this. And then realizing that that was crossing my boundary. I was, again, sacrificing myself and my work and my just energetic capacity to try and heal someone who didn't want to be healed. And I noticed that I was like, well, is there places in my work where I do the same thing, where I feel so much empathy for the women that I do want to help, that I will, give discounts here, I will, help her here, I'll do all this stuff. And I noticed that I have that tendency when I feel for anyone, that the first thing I do is I sacrifice myself in some way. And that part of the growth was really getting rid of the fear of being selfish as well, or reframing what being selfish meant. I have a whole episode actually on the Bad Bitch Empire podcast that's literally called Be More Selfish, and how more selfish women in the world would actually be good, because we can actually cultivate that abundance within us when we're like allowing ourselves to be selfish. But yeah, so I started implementing just very clear boundaries in my personal life, and the types of partners I was or was not willing to tolerate, and behavior I was or was not willing to tolerate. And I stood very, very strong in those boundaries. And I found that the more I cleaned up my personal life, that my professional life also got cleaner. And that it all kind of came together, because it also gave me the feeling that I was truly walking the walk. And when you feel aligned and in integrity, that you are walking the walk that you preach, I think that's when things start to shift differently. And I think a lot of people don't actually do this. They're like presenting as something online, and then in their private lives, they're like just actually a huge mess. And when you have that disconnect or dissonance, that's when things don't work. So I just really try to focus on where in my life is there still dissonance, even if other people can't see the dissonance, but I know it's there, then that's the part I need to work on. And that all of that will translate into the energy of your business.
Yeah. I think particularly as women, going back to the good girl brainwashing, like we're very good at managing into inner turmoil. Like we think or feel one way and present as another. The masking, the putting on a pretty face, the smile, grin and bear it kind of. Mm-hmm. And it's just such a massive energy leak to be doing that all the time. So I think, to your point, it just starts feeling cleaner, the energy, and it's easier. Ultimately, it feels hard, I think, because we've been socialized that that's not right. But ultimately, has it gotten easier to clean up these, energies in your life? It's just to set the boundaries gets easier.
Yeah. I mean, I am like, even now, in a extremely healthy and secure relationship, and something that I was very proud of, in that I attracted a very healthy masculine man into my life, and who's so supportive. And I made it very clear how important energy was to me, and space and all these things. And so I find that, the partner that you choose, is whether that's your life partner and also your business partner, or any sort of partners that you bring into, all aspects of your life, professionally or personally, have a massive influence on how you are day to day, have a massive influence on the thoughts that are going in your brain, right? The messages that you're receiving, and their energy is often, if their energy isn't clean, then your energy gets sullied too, and it gets weighted down. And so, yeah, I think that really, really being intentional about who I chose to bring into my life, and who to invest in, I think that's paying off in dividends in all different aspects. And I think even with, the Empress Accelerator that's coming up, I think just the types of women, including yourself, who are joining the program, and just this really powerful group of women that I'm putting together. And I'm really excited. I'm like, I might not have had the energetic capacity to hold that if I was in, say, something that was not healthy personally, because it's, your business is your baby, and like everything is so intertwined. And so, really being conscious of how the energy is around all aspects of your life will really change the way you show up for yourself personally or professionally.
Yes. What are some of the ways that you help women reframe, or sort of have a healthier relationship with the word investing or their money, their bank account?
Yeah. So in terms of reframing, so they have a healthy relationship, you said, with money.
Yeah, with money or the idea of investing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the big thing is really seeing money as not having a particular negative or positive charge. I think money can feel like it can feel like a really scary thing to face, like your finances. There's some reason it has a very heavy energy for women, especially if you didn't come from wealth, if you didn't come from money. And part of it is just really helping women see that money is a tool that you can use for freedom to create the life that you want. Money is really a reflection of the value that you're creating in the world. And your value has a couple different ways of like, the greater the problem that you're solving, or if you're really creating value in someone else's life, in your customer's life, then you need to also then be able to value yourself enough to figure out how to price yourself, how to price your service or your product that is helping that person. And so especially if you're a business owner thinking about like value generation, it's like, I'm not trying to sell you a product. I'm not trying to sell you a service, because sometimes that transactional nature is still part of a very kind of, it feels icky. It's like kind of gross energy for a lot of women when we feel just the transaction versus you focusing on value creation. Like, the more value you create in the world, the more that money will flow towards you. But this needs to be combined with your identification of your own deservingness, like always going back to your own deservingness, your own value, and knowing how much you should be charging yourself. And so I think it's like really getting away from the idea of like money like a thing that should make us feel a certain way. It's just like money is going to flow for you and towards you if you are creating value in the world. And in the same way, when you're investing in things, you're not like losing your money. You're not like letting your money flow away from you. You are literally investing in something in a type of energy, in a type of place where you see value as well. And then that value is going to come back to you in different ways. And so it's really exchange of value is how I help women reframe money.
I like that. So, what are some of the ways that women can work with you these days, and where's the best place to find you?
So there are many different ways to work with me, but it comes down to a few different things. One is if you are interested in investing, and you are at a place in your life where you want to invest in female-led startups, venture capital, angel investing is one of the most powerful asset classes, and especially I think it's so important for women to learn how to invest in these high growth, high impact asset classes. You can go to badbitchempire.com/fund to learn more about the fund and apply to become an LP or investor. If you are building your empire, if you are looking for coaching, close proximity coaching to build your brand, to amplify your voice, to really build out your business and your offering and scale your Bad Bitch Empire, you can go to lisacarmenwang.com/Empress. That's where the Empress Accelerator is, and you can apply there. We're starting in late September. And then finally, if you're like, I want to get some bad bitch energy, I want to break free of the good girl brainwashing, I want to start, making moves in my life and my business. Maybe you're early on in your entrepreneurial career. The Bad Bitch Empire membership is a great place to start, and you can find that as well at badbitchempire.com. And I am on all social channels at Lisa Carmen Wang.
Amazing. Well, it's been such an honor to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom and your time today, all of your value, your incredible value. Yeah, I'm so excited to work with you in so many capacities moving forward. And yeah, any kind of like a last bit of wisdom you want to leave us with signing off?
Sure. So this is a quote directly from my book, The Bad Bitch Business Bible. And it is, a woman steps into her full power, not when she is finally given permission to do so, but when she realizes she never needed it in the first place. So you don't need permission to evolve. You don't need permission to launch. You don't need permission to show up wearing a completely different outfit that you've never worn in your life before and that will shock everyone around you. You have the right to do, it's your life. And you don't need to live it for other people. You just need to live it in a way that's aligned with your purpose, aligned with the value you want to create in the world, and aligned with your own happiness and abundance.
Goosebumps. Love it. It's such a great quote, and
Thank you.
highly recommend your book, the podcast, and definitely connect with Lisa on socials and check out all of her websites and ways to collaborate and work with her. Thank you so much, Lisa. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Wellness is a Way of Life. Are you ready to make wellness a natural part of your routine? Let's stay connected. Go to meganswanwellness.com. Until next time, live well and thrive.